Hey, what's up there, YouTubers and those who may be watching this on Facebook? It's me, Brian, aka Gamer55551, and I am back with a My 2 Cent video for this week where I take a look at some of the stories that caught my attention and give you my thoughts and my opinion. And we got about basically 6 to cover on this one, including my thoughts on Apple Arcade that has been released so far, though. I have tried the service out on my iPhone and so forth. We also have another controversy surrounding Fallout 76, although I don't know if this falls on being Bethesda's fault, but either way, given the reputation the game has earned, let's just say they will still probably get blamed for it. No matter what. We also have some comments in regards of Borderlands 3, ranging from its Epic Game Store exclusivity to comments made about the odds of the game series coming to the Nintendo Switch. Before we get started, though, we'll go through a quick My 2 Cents, some of the stories that I didn't add on my list, but still caught my attention nevertheless. Two that I wanted to point out that unfortunately I forgot to mention in my last My 2 Cent video, so that's on me though, so I apologize for that one. And that is the surprise announcement during Nintendo's Direct that Overwatch has now been confirmed to come to the Nintendo Switch. We learned that Iron Galaxy will be handling the Switch port, and that the game supposedly will run at 30 frames per second, which I understand not everyone's a fan of that though, and again, I would prefer 60 though, but if the best they could do is 30, that's understandable as long as it's a solid 30 frames per second. I mean, on one hand, we've had games like Fortnite, Warframe basically run at 30 frames per second. On the other hand, we've had games like Paddleland run at 60 frames per second. So certainly debatable, not to mention whether or not it's too little too late to bring this game to the Switch, or if there's still an audience for this game though. So we'll have to wait and see. Also, we don't right now, supposedly there aren't any plans for any cross-platform at this time. Whether that changes or not, again, remains to be seen. We also know that Nintendo is still dipping their toes in fitness, offering now this whole Ring Fit adventure. And based on the trailer I've seen, it looks interesting though. I will say it does, and it seems as though it's trying to take exercise and turn it into an actual, from what I understand, an RPG kind of approach on this one. Will it take off or not? We'll have to wait and see though. But it's interesting. Nevertheless, I will say it is interesting, despite the first trailer being utterly cheesy and stupid, while the second one I kind of felt was more on point. We also learned about Nintendo releasing this week. Mario Kart World Tour has come out, and supposedly the game has been downloaded, I think like 20 million times. I could be wrong on that number, and it has certainly done well. But not everyone is pleased with it, and it has to do with the fact that not only is there microtransactions in it, as being this is a free-to-play game, but also piled onto it is a subscription service, which supposedly is more expensive than what Apple Arcade is charging for their subscription service, $5 a month to be exact. So not everybody is pleased with this, so take it how it is. I mean, I'm not really sure about why Nintendo is doing this at all. And of course, we learned about possibility rumors of 2 games that could be coming to the Nintendo Switch, although these are sort of ports. The first one is a story coming out that the folks who are working on the Panzer Dragoon or Dragon game that was shown during Nintendo's Direct at E3 this year are working on supposedly a remake or port of House of the Dead 1 and 2. Right now, there's no official confirmation. We don't know whether or not this is a straight-up port, or basically it's going into the remake of what Panzer Dragoon, or Dragon, I apologize if I'm not saying it correctly, that was shown at E3 this year, whether they're taking that approach. Honestly, I would like to see both games in one cartridge, and I would be okay with a straight-up port, but I wouldn't mind if they were to take sort of like the Resident Evil remake approach, remake the game, modernize it a little bit, and hopefully this opens the door to maybe seeing a port of House of the Dead 3, 4, Overkill, and maybe that one that is supposedly in the arcades right now, at least in Japan. That supposedly is running on Unreal Engine 4. That would be nice. And supposedly there are reports of a rating system that's pointing to a port of Grand Theft Auto 3 could be making its way onto the Nintendo Switch. That was the game that was released on the PlayStation 2 that basically really boosted Grand Theft Auto series from the top-down perspective to the full 3D. I'm mixed on this decision. While it's great, and don't get me wrong, it's considered a classic, I personally would prefer something like Grand Theft Auto 4 and 5 coming to the Nintendo Switch. Right now, we don't know if this is a typo on the rating system. Supposedly this is from the Australia rating system, so we'll have to wait and see until we get official confirmation on that one. Alright, with those quick My 2 cent stories out of the way, we'll get started with our first one, and this one has to do with an issue in regards of the Switch Lite, particularly the drifting issue. Now, as we all know, Nintendo recently released their new family in the Switch lineup, the Switch Lite, which is basically a portable only version of the Nintendo Switch, where you basically play it as just a portable. It's not like the Switch where you could dock it onto your TV and take it with you on the go or anything like that. Personally, I'm okay with the Switch that I have right now. I know some people like to just play it just portable, and if you're that kind of person, that's fine. I just prefer to play it how it is, where you can play it at home or take it with you on the go. Well, recently it seems as though there are some people claiming that they are running into a problem that has, for some certain Switch owners, has been an issue, and that is so-called the drifting, or the Joy-Con drift, where supposedly the left Joy-Con or something doesn't seem to work or anything like that. In an article posted up on Nintendo Enthusiast, it reads, quote, the title is reading, "At least one Switch Lite is already having drift issues." Recently, it points out that a Redditor who goes by the name of Tori Delin, Tortedelini, apologize for not saying it correctly, posted a video of a drifting Switch Lite on r/gaming. The short video, which they pointed out here on the article, shows the right analog stick on the new Switch Lite drifting on its own, presumably ruining an otherwise enjoyable session of The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild. Joy-Con drifts have been a massive pain in the butt since the Switch came out in 2017. A likely design flaw in the Joy-Con designs itself. Score of users had problems with their Joy-Cons drifting out of control. Now, the person wrote that he personally had drifting problems in 4 of his 6 Joy-Cons, with one being totally almost unusable. Some users have been able to fix the Joy-Cons themselves, while others have taken advantage of the free out-of-warrant repair from Nintendo of America's customer service. Several Nintendo fans are responding apprehensively towards the Switch Lite because of the past drifting issues. Drifting becomes significantly more annoying when the controller cannot be easily detached and work on separately from the rest of the system this early on. There's no way of knowing if this recent report is indicative of a greater problem or just a serious unlucky player. The person wrote it, but if you're nervous, it may be wise to wait and see for just a bit longer before grabbing a Switch Lite. Now, there have been some back and forth, some people claiming this is true, others saying that the video is docked or anything like that. I don't know whether that is or not. I will say I haven't had a Switch Lite, so I'm not sure. I can't experience about any of this as far as I'm aware of, and I don't know how widespread this is, whether this is truly widespread or not. That said, all I can say is, based on my time with the Nintendo Switch, I haven't had any drifting issues whatsoever. I had my Nintendo Switch since the system launched back in 2017, and not once have I ran into a drifting problem with the Joy-Cons. I haven't had any problems where the Joy-Cons acted on its own or anything like that. Some people have claimed that some of the issues may emerge that they're not following the instructions on, to make sure the Joy-Cons are functioning. Others will point out to playing obsessive amount of Smash Brothers. Again, I don't know if that's true or not, but if this is true, if this person's point out is true, that they are experiencing drifting in the Joy-Cons, then the question really is, how widespread is it? I mean, if it's hugely widespread and a lot of people are reporting it, that could be a problem for Nintendo, especially with a system where designed just as portable only. It's not like the Joy-Cons, like on the regular Nintendo Switch, where you can simply, if that one breaks, you could go buy a new one. This one is that it's attached to the system, plain and simple. It can't be detachable or anything like that. So I don't know how widespread this is, but hopefully, whatever the problem is, hopefully Nintendo can address this, and hopefully this doesn't become a major or big issue. So overall, it is something to keep an eye out for those who are planning to get a Switch Lite, though. Again, I don't have a Nintendo Switch Lite, though. I've had just my regular Nintendo Switch, and I haven't ran into any Joy-Con drift in issues whatsoever, but I can't speak for everyone out there. So hopefully this isn't widespread, but that certainly is a concern if it starts becoming widespread indeed. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 2, and this one has to do with supposedly Borderlands seemed to be doing well. This Borderlands 3 seems to be doing well despite the Epic Store exclusivity, and a recent comment by one of the folks at Gearbox tells us about supposedly the comment does give the impression of whether or not the Borderlands series could be coming to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 2 of our My True Cent video for this week, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at supposedly a comment both Gearbox and 2K have made in regards of Borderlands 3 and supposedly the success of the game, and a comment made in regards of any chance of the Borderlands series coming to the Nintendo Switch. So we'll start off first with Borderlands 3. As we all know, Borderlands 3 has just recently came out. Despite the controversy that has surrounded the game, there was the issue of the whole microtransactions, which supposedly point to being just cosmetics and skins, as far as I'm aware of. But of course, Randy Pitchford made a big deal out of it and turned it really into an issue that really it should have been, to the whole allegations of him assaulting or doing something to one of the original voice actors for Claptrap, to the whole idea of something inside of a USB at a medieval times that contains, content that was, inappropriate, and he's saying he has nothing to do with it whatsoever, to the whole issue of Borderlands 3, at least as far as the PC goes, being an exclusive to the Epic Game Store, while supposedly for at least 6 months or so, until it eventually makes its way over to Steam. Now, obviously not everybody, especially those who are PC gamers, appreciate that, since the Epic Game Store has been criticized for many things, ranging from certain controversies that they have not handled properly, to not even having some of the most basic things like a shopping cart or so forth, which honestly, if you're having like a storefront like that, whether it's an online store like Amazon or something like Steam, don't you think having a shopping cart is something you want to add in there and all? Well, either way, despite the controversies, it doesn't seem that has stopped, at least according to what 2K Gearbox are saying, of Borderlands 3 being a success. In the first article, in the article posted on WCCF Tech, it's reported that, quote, Borderlands 3 set several sales records, over 5 million units sold in the first 5 days. And according to the article, it reads, quote, 2K just issued a press release boasting that Borderlands 3 released 10 days ago on the PS4 and Xbox One and PC via Epic Game Store already set several sales records for both the publisher and the franchise itself. Within its first 5 days of launch, 50% more consumers purchased Borderlands 3 versus sales of its predecessors, Borderlands 2, which many still hail as the best entry in the series, making the title the fastest selling in 2K's history, as well as the highest selling title for the label on PC in a 5-day window. In addition, Borderlands 3 has sold in more than 5 million units in its first 5 days, leading the Borderlands franchise to generate more than $1 billion in net bookings, and becomes the second franchise in 2K's history this milestone. Borderlands 3 marks 2K's highest percentage of digital sales for a cross-platform, cross-distribution title, with more than 70% of consumers purchasing the game digitally in the first 5 days of release. In addition, Borderlands 3 delivered the highest pre-order sales figures to date for a 2K title, as well as broke pre-order records with the Epic Game Store. Initial sales of Borderlands 3 has exceeded the label expectation, and in particular, PC sales of the titles through the Epic Game Store has been incredibly strong. Borderlands 3 claims the top position on Twitch for most watched game on its launch day, and has maintained its position as the top 5 most watched game since launch. In addition, Borderlands 3 has already generated hours of content view on Twitch, more than half the viewership that Borderlands 2 generated in its 7 years lifespan. The president of 2K said in a statement, Borderlands 3's incredible successful launch is a result of the hard work and long-standing partnership between Gearbox and 2K. We are immediately grateful to everyone who played a role in making the Borderlands series the global pop culture phenomenon that it is today, including hundreds of developers at Gearbox and many who have made this their life's work. We also want to thank the Borderlands community. Mayhem does not happen by itself, and their passion for the series is what drives us to make each game an amazing experience. So if what 2K Gaming is saying, what 2K and Gearbox are saying is true, it seems that not only did Borderlands 3 do very well on the console releases though, but it seems as though that it doesn't sound like, despite some people not happy with the Epic Game Store situation, it doesn't seem to have harmed Borderlands 3's launch on the PC, which I will say, if this is true and Borderlands 3 did well on PC through the Epic Game Store, you could be sure there's going to be other companies that may choose to sign an exclusivity with the Epic Game Store, citing Borderlands 3's success. And if that happens, well, that may, again, I'm not a PC expert, I could be literally wrong on this. If that's true and we see Epic Games sign more exclusivity, that may put pressure on Valve and Steam to do something as far as their storefront goes. Because if this is true, that Borderlands 3 did well at the Epic Game Store, that could lead to a situation where Steam may decide, hey, we got to do exclusivity for our launcher as well, even though not everyone is a fan of it. But it seems as though, regardless of the backlash or criticisms of Borderlands 3 being a Epic Store exclusive, at least for a temporary one, as far as I'm aware of, it doesn't seem to have impacted the PC release, at least according to what Gearbox and 2K are saying. As for whether or not the series will make its way to the Switch, though, well, there's been some back and forth on that as well. Randy Pitchford, I think, made a comment a couple years ago saying that there were talks with Nintendo, then it stopped. Then he made a comment saying, would love to see it happen, and so forth. Well, in a recent comment made by one of the directors of Borderlands 3, they came up and gave a response in regards of the possibility of the Borderlands series coming to the Nintendo Switch. It reads, and this is from Game Radar, it reads, quote, though Gearbox Randy Pitchford has previously confirmed he would love to bring Borderlands to Nintendo Switch, there has been no signs that any Borderlands games, let alone the newly released Borderlands 3, would release on the Nintendo Switch. If you're still keen to see the looter shooter on your favorite handheld device, there's a thin but real ray of hope. Asked by a fan if the franchise will ever come to the Switch, Borderlands 3 creative director Paul Sage, S-A-G-E, told Greg Miller, never say never. So that's sort of their response to basically in regards of the Borderlands 3 or Borderlands series coming to the Nintendo Switch or anything like that. Honestly, in my opinion, I would like to see the series come to the Nintendo Switch. I certainly would be open. Think it's going to happen. I'm not 100% sure if it's going to happen. Given some of the past statements that Gearbox has are going to bring the Borderlands series to the Nintendo Switch. Again, I could be wrong, and they could pull a fast one on us and actually bring the series over to the Nintendo Switch, but I'm just not holding my breath. This, to me, sounds almost kind of like the statement similar to what EA has made in terms of saying about their reason why they aren't supporting the Nintendo Switch. You first had Andrew Wilson saying that it's not like some sort of non-importance to them. Then you have one of the folks who work at EA saying, oh yeah, it is very important. We have some games in development, but seeing the games they have released right now, I'm not convinced. And so I'm going to go with this one and say actions speak louder than words. So until Gearbox actually shows a Borderlands game coming to the Nintendo Switch, I would like to see both Game of the Year, first one, the Handsome Collection, and if they could bring Borderlands 3 over to the Switch, that would be great. I know some people say they couldn't, but seeing that game runs on Unreal Engine 4 and the Switch supports Unreal Engine 4, we'll have to wait and see. But overall, as in regards of that statement goes, in regards of the possibility of the game coming to the Nintendo Switch, I would say right now, I would like for it to happen, but I'm not holding my breath at this time. Okay, we're going to take a quick break. When we get back, we're going to get to part 3, and this one has to do with some information in regards to the upcoming Fairy Tail game, in regards of the game's length to the possibility of DLC. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 3 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one we're going to be taking a look at some new information that has come out in regards of the upcoming Fairy Tail game. Now, last week I talked about how basically it was announced during the Tokyo Game Show that Koei Tecmo, along with the developer named Gus, were basically working on basically a game based off the popular anime / manga, the Fairy Tail series, and it was coming to not only to the PC but also the PS4 and Nintendo Switch. And we had some information here and there that came out, and so now we have some new information. Some of it has to do with in regards of the game's length to the possibility of DLCs. So in regards of basically from an article from site known as GEMATSU, apologize if I'm saying the name incorrectly, they picked up some more information that came from the latest issue of Dengai PlayStation. Basically, it seems that this is a PlayStation magazine, I assume in Japan, although I could be wrong. And while this is from a PlayStation magazine, I assume this is going to apply to also the PC and the Nintendo Switch. So here are some of the new information that came out so far, at least for now, though. Some of the tidbits they point out are the main story alone should be about 30 hours long, 3 hours of gameplay. There is side content such as character episodes and special costumes, so it should take longer than 30 hours. Game unique stories will appear, such as requests related to the characters that do not appear much in the original manga or anime, so I assume it's going to be non-canon or anything like that, but again, I could be wrong, completely wrong on that. There are more than 10 playable characters, though it's unclear how many of them will be playable right out of the gate, how many of them will be, well, DLCs or something like that. There are costumes. Downloadable content is being considered, as you guild rank increase, your magic link will become greater, and you can learn ultra magic legend class magic. Apologize, I'm not saying that correctly. By fulfilling the requests of the townspeople, you will be able to upgrade your guild various facilities. Your bond with your players will deepen as you place them in your party or fulfill requests together. Although, I don't know whether there is a romance option or not. Who knows if that's going to be in the game or not. Battles are command-based, as previously announced. Played while considering things like when should I do this, what should I do to, what magic should I use, and who should I use it on. Supporting characters like Makarov, Makarov, can assist you with Fairy Law, Esquedos, some ESQUE. Again, I apologize, I'm not saying the name correctly. Ultra Magic. There are characters that support each facility jobs and the likes within the guild, and they point out the game is set for a worldwide release for 2020. So the two ones that I think took away from me, that one I like, one can be, some people may be okay with, some people may not be with, is, well, the first one I like is the fact that the game's going to be around 30 hours long. So it is going to be pretty meaty, although it doesn't sound like, based on what I hear, it's going to follow the entire series, at least as far as I'm aware of, or at least what I've read. Still, for it to be 30 hours long, that is nice though, so it is definitely a meaty game to begin with. The part that might be upsetting for some people may be okay with this, some may not be, is the whole DLC situation. Now, as far as DLCs go, when they are done right, DLCs can be a good thing. I mean, look at games like Hyrule Warriors, Splatoon 2, and The Witcher 3 Wild Hunt are good examples of games doing DLCs correctly. So there are times when DLCs are done right. That said, there have been cases where some DLCs, well, let's just say not everybody is a fan of. There's the DLCs that are only pre-order bonuses to sometimes, and Koei Tecmo, as much as I like them, they are notorious of doing this as well, sometimes charging up to, say, $100 for a DLC. Hell, Indie Creates, for crying out loud, as much as I like them, I believe charged $100 for a DLC where you can see through characters' clothes in their on-rail fan service shooter, Gal Gun, for crying out loud. And so there are times when some developers tend to go a little overboard with the DLC part. So I can understand why some people may be a little iffy about them, thinking about DLCs, when many will view that as like gated out content. Sort of similar situation with the upcoming release of Luigi Mansions 3. Again, looking forward to it, but hearing that they're planning DLCs and all, many give the impression that this should have been in the game in the first place. So again, DLCs can go either way. They could be handled properly, or they could be mishandled poorly though. So overall, very interesting information. Glad that the game is 30 hours or so long. It sounds like it's, like I said, it sounds like it's going to be a meaty game. The DLCs can go, like I said, could go both ways. It could be handled the right way, but it can also be handled the wrong way. So we'll have to wait and see in regards of DLCs for the upcoming Fairy Tail game. Either way, I'm looking forward. I'm curious about this game, to trying it out when it's released on 2020 and next year, and I'm definitely looking forward to picking it up for the Nintendo Switch. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 4, and this one has to do with another controversy in regards of Fallout 76. Although this one may not be Bethesda's doing. It may not be, though. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 4 of our My 2 Cent video, and for this one has to do with Fallout 76 and another controversy the game has gotten itself into. Only this time it seems to be has to do with a certain pre-order bonus. On top of that, this may not be of Bethesda's doing. Now, ever since its launch, Fallout 76 has had a rough time though. The game was originally when it originally came out, many point out being broken, buggy, unplayable, and all that. On top of that, there was a whole issue with the Power Armor pre-order bonus where videos were showing that instead of getting the canvas bag, they got the nylon bag. Bethesda tried to handle it by offering 500 atoms, which is basically $5 of in-game currency, which did not sit very well, to a point where basically they were saying they couldn't make enough of the canvas bag, which was many people did not buy because of the whole situation as they were giving it out to influencers, to the point where a law firm was going to step in and basically talk about possibly suing Bethesda, to the point that Bethesda decided that they were going to hand out the canvas bag in the first place and all that stuff. And since then, the controversy has kind of died down a little bit, although there are some here and there, especially Bethesda's kind of piss poor response to the whole controversy surrounding Fallout 76 and all. But for the most part, Anthem from EA has pretty much dominated the news of how poorly and how everything has been handled with that game. Well, apparently it seems as though Fallout 76 is back on the news, but in another controversy that, well, even if it's not Bethesda's fault, it's still going to be a black eye on them no matter what. And this has to do with another Power Armor that was not sold by Bethesda, but by a third party that just recently got recalled due to the discovery of mold in one of the Power Armor helmets. In an article first published on The Verge, it reads, quote, "A collectible Fallout 76 helmet was recalled due to dangerous levels of mold." It points out that 32 units were sold through GameStop. Excuse me. It reads, a collector's edition wearable Power Armor helmet from Bethesda's Fallout 76 sold through GameStop has been recalled to the extremely high level of mold. Approximately 20,000 units of the helmets were made and 32 were sold through GameStop. Every recall helmet sold was defined as the Fallout 1 Power Armor Nuka-Cola helmet, which had a red paint finish with white color extinguishers tubing around the side, a GameStop representative told The Verge. The company has notified every customer who purchased the item and has offered a full refund. Other iteration of the helmets, including different models, editions, or color of Power Armor helmets, were not affected according to a GameStop reputation. The red helmets were recalled on September 19th, according to the United States Consumer Safety Commission, CPSC. Only the GameStop exclusive red color helmet is being recalled, not the similar looking helmet that Bethesda included in its collector's edition of the game. The helmet presents with mold on the fabric inserted inside the helmet at a level that poses a risk of respiratory infection, especially for people who comprise immune system, damaged lungs, or allergies or allergic to mold. Now, according to Bethesda, they released and this is from Forbes. This is from the Forbes site. They released a statement to DualShocker, and their statement on the situation is, quote, "The helmet that are being recalled are not from our Fallout 76 Power Armor Edition, but instead a different line of helmets sold exclusively by GameStop. The Fallout 76 Power Armor Edition are unaffected. Consumers should visit the product recall page for instructions if they have purchased the GameStop helmet." So that's not good. The fact that mold was discovered in this, though, and it makes you kind of wonder, why wasn't this discovered in the first place? It's a good thing that they are pushing for, that they are really casting people to return this, and they're actually going to give an actual refund, at least according to what this article is saying. If that's true, I think that's great. That certainly is better than how Bethesda handled the whole canvas bag debacle, where they were going to offer a 500 atoms, $5 in game currency and so forth. So good that they are handling this, though. Not so good on the fact that it could be a black eye not only to GameStop, but even towards Bethesda as well. Even if Bethesda had absolutely nothing to do with this, this is still going to be a black eye on them. I mean, Fallout 76 in general has been, the whole situation has been, and part of my language on this one, has been one hell of a shitstorm. I mean, the game launched poorly, broken, and all that stuff, the whole canvas bag debacle and all that, and now this one. Even if it's not Bethesda's fault, it's still going to be a black eye on them in regards to Fallout 76. Not to mention, it's definitely going to be a black eye on GameStop as well, although I will applaud the fact that they are going to give a refund and comply with the United States Consumer Production Safety Commission. So if you're one of those folks who got the Nuka-Cola helmet, the Fallout 1 power armor, you probably might want to definitely take this up right now and get a refund out of it, though, for safety reasons, especially if the reports are true of the high level of mold in this. So overall, good that this got caught, good that it's getting, although it should have been caught earlier though, good that the consumers are going to get a refund, at least according to what this article is saying. But still, even if this has nothing to do with Bethesda, even if they had no part in the whole creation of this though, it's still going to be a black eye on Fallout 76 nevertheless. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to part 5, and this one has to do with my thoughts on the latest on Sony's PlayStation State of Play. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 5 of our My True Cent video, and for this one, we're going to be taking a look at Sony's latest State of Play. Now, ever since Nintendo has done their own, like Nintendo Directs and so forth, we've seen lately both Sony and Microsoft sort of take a stab at their own take of their own version of a Direct. We see with Microsoft with the Inside Xbox, and Sony has done that with their State of Play. And while the first one wasn't exactly a hit for everyone, I think a lot of people didn't like the fact that it only focused on VR and VR only, which is okay if you have a PlayStation VR, but if you don't have a PlayStation VR, then that State of Play did not interest you. But the next one certainly fared a little bit better, and there were some interesting announcements. And after taking a look at the third one, I would say I approached the third one almost similar to my same approach with the last Nintendo Direct. I won't say it did anything that blew me away, but there were some good announcements nevertheless, and there were ones that did stand out for me. For the ones that did stand out for me the most, though, I will say Medieval having the demo out right now is definitely one that is definitely one I will definitely try out. I never played the Medieval games before, but based on what I've seen so far, it looks almost like their own, PlayStation's own version of ghouls and goblins. So it's definitely one I will try out. And hey, we've been seeing a lot of remakes lately. Crash, Spiral, obviously this one as well. The other big announcements were basically The Last of Us Part 2. We finally have a launch date for that one at February 21st, 2020, which is certainly around past my birthday, to be exact. I was born on February 11th. So nice that we have an official launch date on that one. And there was another one that caught my attention was Arisen. That's the new one. Let's see. I think I have the article here though. I think it's being developed. It looks like a platforming game. It's being developed by a Spanish-based studio. I think Pinocchio and Techland is the one that's going to be publishing them, which is kind of interesting. Obviously, Techland is basically doing stuff outside of their upcoming release of Dying Light 2. I've been hearing that they've been entering the publishing business a little bit more, so that certainly is nice, and this is definitely one I will keep an eye out for. The ones that look weird are Humanity, though. Based on that one, that one looks a little weird, to be exact, but at the same time, I'm kind of curious about that one, so I'll keep an eye out for that one, though. And of course, the other one from the creator of this game right here, as you can see, got this from my little Loop Gaming thing right here. Kamari Dalamari, if I'm saying the name correctly, is putting out a new game that supposedly has been in development for quite some time, called Wattsman, Wattan. That's scheduled to come out for the PS4 and PC sometime in December. It looks weird. It definitely looks weird. That doesn't mean I'm not interested in taking a look at it, but it's definitely one I will keep an eye out for. Civilization is going to come to the PS4, though. I have it for the Switch, but I'm sure there is an audience for the PS4, so I'm sure a lot of folks will be looking at that one. Great that they're having a limited edition PS4 Death Stranding, but that doesn't really interest me in any way. The VR cases are out today for the PlayStation VR, so if you have a PlayStation VR, you could play LA Noire, the VR cases, so that certainly is right up there. Modern Warfare is going to have a PS4 exclusive survivor mode, although there has been some bit of controversy surrounding that, as not everybody is pleased with that whole situation, though. And of course, The Last of Us is the first Last of Us remastered, and MLB The Show 19 are headed for the PlayStation Plus for October. So if you subscribe, if you have PlayStation Plus, something to keep an eye out as well. So overall, like I said about the state of play, I would say it's not. It's like how I viewed the last Nintendo Direct. I mean, it's not. There are some good announcements, but I didn't blew me out of the way or anything like that. The ones that stuck out for me, of course, was a release date for Last of Us Part 2 and the demo for Medieval. I think those are the two that really stuck out for me the most, though. I'm sure there are some that some people liked and all that stuff, but it is what it is. Also, despite earlier rumors, obviously there were rumors that a new Batman game was going to be shown at the State of Play, but obviously that didn't happen. So it is what it is. So overall, there were some things about the State of Play I liked, but it didn't really blow me out of the water or anything like that. Okay, we're going to take a quick break, and when we get back, we're going to get to parts... wait. Okay, there we go. We're going to get to part 6, and this one's... I want to give my thoughts on Apple Arcade and what I think about it so far. So we'll take a quick break, and we will be right back. Okay, and we are back with part 6 of our My 2 Cent video. And for this one, I want to give my thoughts so far on what I think about Apple Arcade in general. Now, as some of you may or may not know, last week and then now this week, with the recent update for the ISO 13 on the iPad, though, Apple recently released their new gaming subscription service by the name of Apple Arcade. This was mentioned, I believe, earlier this year, as they were aiming to offer interesting and unique games for their platforms of systems. That includes, their iPhone, their iPad, their MacBook, and the iMacs, which I believe those are coming, I believe, in October. I think there will be an update for that one. I'm not 100% sure. I could be wrong on those dates, though. And since then, there has been certain questions about the service, whether some of the games will be good and all that stuff. Well, I did download, say, a couple of the games on my iPhone, though. I took advantage, currently right now, taking advantage of their 1 month free trial, although after that it's $5 every month and so forth. And I will say, I like what I'm seeing right now with it, and I do see the service could have potential, but I also think there are some hurdles, some areas that I think they could improve upon as well. And I think a lot of it will come down to the games. So I'm going to give you a quick pros and cons of what I think about the service. So we'll start off first with the pro, and that is they, true to their words of what they said so far, there is no microtransactions or any ads, unlike, you know, when you download a game from like the App Store on your phone or tablet or anything like that. You're not going to find that here. It's simply you can just go in and play the games and so forth, which is a godsend, because let's be honest, although a lot of companies do make a lot of money that put their games in the App Store that are freemium, there have been times when they have been notorious with the microtransactions and putting in the ads, sort of like that gotcha mechanics and so forth. So to see a actual mobile game with none of those and actually being able to play it is, to me, a godsend. So it makes playing mobile games better than, say, like what you would get from like the those freemium games that you see on the app stores. While there are some freemium games that are good, they are basically buried under the plenty that are just notorious. So great that basically a lot of the games, great that the games on the Apple Arcade don't have any microtransactions or ads. And last but not least, I will say the touchscreen for most of these games definitely work well. For example, Spaceland, I felt that even though that supports a controller, you could use the touchscreen, and that worked very well. The one from Square Enix, which is basically which is like a touchscreen on that one, works extremely well for that game. Hell, even Oceanhorn 2, which is sort of a 3D platform that's the closest thing to a Zelda-like game on the Apple Arcade, surprisingly, the touchscreens on those games, work really well. I was surprised at that. I did not think that it was going to work well, but it certainly did. Although I would prefer a controller, and the good news, at least as far as the controllers goes, as far as I'm aware of, is that it does support Bluetooth controller, and I believe you can use a PS4 or Xbox One controller. Although I think there's certain models, but you can use those, which certainly is going to come in handy for those who are playing to use the Apple Arcade. As far as the cons go in regards of Apple Arcade, I will say so far not all Apple Arcade games are going to use a regular controller. Outside of, say, like Oceanhorn 2 or maybe like 2 or 3 other games, not all the games use it, which is unfortunate, because there are some that I think would benefit using a traditional controller than constantly using the touch screen, though. While I think touchscreen controls can work, not every game is going to benefit from touchscreen controls. So I am a little disappointed that I'm disappointed that some games that would work well with a regular controller aren't using that. So I think it is a little bit unfortunate, though, on that one. And last but not least, I would say, while I do think a lot of the games on the Apple Arcade are fun and are not as bad as a lot of people make it out to be, I would say don't go in with the assumption you're going to see AAA games through the Apple Arcade. I have a feeling those aren't the type of games you're going to see on the Apple Arcade. I mean, could that change down the road? There's always that possibility, but I personally just don't see that happening. So don't expect to see AAA games. As far as, at least from my point of view, I don't expect to see those kind of games on the Apple Arcade. My overall takeaway for Apple Arcade so far is that I like some ideas that they're doing, and I could definitely see the potential for it, though. I think a lot of it is going to come down to the games, and that's where that might appeal to some people or might not appeal to others. And while there are certainly some good games out there, there are some that feel maybe a little bit too much like, the download from like the App Store and all that stuff. and so forth. And don't expect it to be the kind of games that don't expect like AAA style types of games. But if they could offer more unique games and put more traditional controller support on that one, again, some games will benefit from the touchscreen controls, but there are some out there that I think a controller would be a better choice. If they could do that and provide some really good games, I could see the potential in Apple Arcade. As far as it posing a threat to like PC gaming or consoles, I just don't see that in there though. While I think some of the games on Apple Arcade are unique and interesting, I don't see this posing a threat to, like, say, PC gaming. I just don't see something like that happening, let alone seeing this posing a threat to, say, like, the console systems, or like something like the Nintendo Switch. I mean, yes, it is, you could play these games on your screen or in a port or on your phone or tablet, but I just don't see that posing a threat to the Nintendo Switch, much like mobile games really didn't pose a huge threat to the Nintendo 3DS. It took some bite out of the 3DS, but didn't really do a whole lot of damage. So my overall takeaway with Apple Arcade so far is that I like some of the games they have out so far for the system, though. I could definitely see the potential there, but I would like to see more of these games support traditional controls. I understand not every game will, but like to see that. And I would say, as long as you don't go in expecting AAA games in the Apple Arcade, I'm sure there's probably some out there that might appeal to you and so forth. So it's going to be interesting to see how well this works over time, and whether or not Apple will stick with the $5 a month, or whether that changes or anything for that. But for right now, I definitely like what I'm seeing so far in regards to the Apple Arcade. Okay, this concludes my 2 cent video for this week. And again, these are my opinion. What are yours? What are your thoughts about in regards to the drifting issues for the Switch Lite controllers? Do you think it's a big deal? Do you think it's not a big deal? Have you purchased a Switch Lite? Have you experienced that issue, or have you not experienced that issue at all? Excuse me. What are your thoughts about What are your thoughts about Borderlands 3? Do you think the game has become a success? Do you think that people were taking the Epic Game Store's situation way too seriously? Are you pleased with Borderlands 3? Are you not pleased with Borderlands 3? And do you think there's any chance we could see the Borderlands series come to the Nintendo Switch? What are your thoughts about the new details about the Fairy Tail game? Are you happy about, say, like, the game's going to be like maybe 30 hours long? Are you okay with them considering DLCs, or do you think it's a little too early for them to be talking about DLC? What are your thoughts about this recall about the Fallout 76 power armor helmet, though? Oh, jeez, my throat. Yeah, that's me. Do you think that this situation was handled properly? Do you think this is going to be another black eye on Bethesda and possibly GameStop in regards of the whole situation with this power armor? What are your thoughts about Sony's State of Play, their newest one, though? Did you like what you see with that one? Did you not like what you see? Were there anything that stuck out for you, or did you think it was just boring as hell? And what are your thoughts about the Apple Arcade? Have you tried out Apple Arcade yet? Do any of the games interest you? Did you like what Apple was doing, or do you have issues with what Apple's doing in regards of Apple Arcade so far? Do you agree with what I said in this video? Do you disagree? Do you have a difference of opinion? As always, sound off in the comments section below of this YouTube video, and I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel, and I hope you hit the like button, and I hope you do subscribe to my YouTube channel. If you do, make sure you hit the bell icon for notifications of any new videos I put up on YouTube. Also, feel free to share this video if you want to, and feel free to donate to my channel if you like. You could do it through PayPal me or Patreon. Links will be in the description of this YouTube video. And I will see you again next time when I do another video. Hopefully that'll be soon. Until then, from Southern California, wish you all a good day then. Bye!